Gentlemen, are we live? Are we live? Yeah, I think we are. Huh? 5 minutes past the hour. Slight delay, but not too much.
Sorry.
The Leo Zagami Show. Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Yes, the Leo Zagami Show. This is the Leo Zagami Show, Christy.
And now, live from Palm Springs, California, your host, Leo Zagami.
And Christy Zagami. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show, the most unusual geopolitical analysis to date, and today a special dedicated to a rather unusual subject. The spiritual warfare behind the war in Ukraine. Huh?
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Bruce. Hi, Alonzo d'Italia. Alonso. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Of course, we love when Christy
Did I
gives...
say Kevin? Kevin
Yes. Then we have Tord, white alien hybrid, because Tord, not third, Tord, white alien hybrid from Norway. So he's Norwegian, so Tord from Norway. Very good, Tord. Then we have Diane, we have his servant.
Diane, hi.
And we have Sigurd. We have some, definitely some Nordic names here in the chat. The dance macabre. So what's the title of today's show, Christy? And what is this show about?
I just want to first say, I hope that everybody had a very nice Easter.
Oh, we had a great Easter.
Yeah, we did.
We actually met the Easter Bunny, but it was not the same CIA Easter Bunny that met with Joe Biden and didn't let him talk when he was, as usual, spewing some of his rubbish. But it was another Easter Bunny.
Do you have the picture?
Yeah, somewhere. I should.
I don't think you've seen it.
Yes, I did. I have to find it though. But it's somewhere here in my files. In the meantime.
Find it.
No, but I mean, it was a beautiful place.
No, I want it.
No, but this is you're not gonna find it. Instead, I will find it.
I took the picture.
You took the picture, Christy. You took the picture. So I need to.
Never gonna find it.
And why I'm never gonna find it? Because there's too many things in the computer. Mm-hmm. But if I find it, I win. I win the bet. Huh?
What are we betting for?
I don't know.
I don't like your bets. I usually have to end up doing something I don't want to.
Ooh, here it is. So prepare yourself. I won the bet. Here is Leo Zagami with the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny. Ha ha. Yes, so I must say, we actually managed to find this time a decent place. It was an Italo-American restaurant.
It was really good.
Yeah,
it was
called,
the first place that we found that was good.
What is it called? Sammy G's Toscan Grill or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great place here in Palm Springs, I must say. And old school Palm Springs kind of people were hanging out there.
Looks like a bunch of
mobsters from The Sopranos.
Witness protection program.
Great place, though, I must say. Great food. We loved it. We loved it, Christy. It was really, I enjoyed very much. I should have also saved some images of what we had for our audience.
No, it's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. I might be able to still find something here.
Important.
It's not relevant. It's not relevant. We are, of course, waiting for
Stop
people.
doing that.
Okay, but I have some image here, at least of the pudding. One of the puddings. Very nice one. What was this, Christy? A chocolate cake
That's
with what?
mine.
Yes, but you ended up instead eating mine. Christy, why did you eat mine and not this one? I'm going to show now what I ate. I ate a spumoni. A spumoni.
That's why I ate
an
yours.
Italian ice cream that I particularly like. Here it is. Ooh, watch the man himself and the spumoni. Whoa. People are still tuning in, so we are messing around as you are tuning in. So by messing around, we are able to get more people in before we start the show. But this was actually what was next to us where we were eating. This is the kind of scenario. Typical Palm Springs. Great. We enjoyed it. And I hope you did too, because now we are touching on a very dark subject, my friends. The Leo Zagami show today dedicated to black magic and Satanism behind the war in Ukraine. Christy, what do you think of this subject? What do you think?
I don't think about it.
You prefer not to think about it? You prefer not to think about it? Well,
I don't really have this. It's not really relevant in my life. Sure.
But of course, is relevant, unfortunately, those millions of people who are subject to this invisible occult war behind the scenes. I've actually touched on the subject of occult war, an occult war, in volume 1 of my Confessions, when I, of course, talked about the conclusion of La Guerre Occulte by Léon de Poncins and what Baron Julius Evola said about it. And Julius Evola was, of course, fascinating kind of figure, which I've also talked about in my books. The occult war is something that we don't really discuss, because we usually discuss now what is happening with people shooting themselves and the bombs, the threat of the nuclear, but it's not easy. This is Viscount Léon de Poncins wrote this in State Secrets, a documentation of the secret revolution in mainspring governing Anglo-American politics. This is a citation I pick up from volume 1 of my Confessions. It's not easy to unveil the secrecy with which the occult forces cover their actions. Our aim is more modest. We intend to bring to light of the evidence in the same way that the beam of a torch abruptly pierces the darkness of night and reveals people and things which had been hidden until then. It is absolutely essential for the forces of the occult to act under the cover of mist and darkness if their work is to succeed. Thus, my endeavor is to make available to my readers the awareness of the existence of certain subterranean forces which threaten to undermine the future of ancient Western civilization. Huh? How's that, Christy? It's a rather...
I remember that.
Yes, of course, you remember you edited this book, but I just wanted the people to focus on this specific passage. And I think that we need to start the show. And really,
Didn't we started already?
But they will get really into the subject, because here I have a lot of material I'm eager to transmit to my audience.
Well, knock yourself out. I'm just going to sit back here and listen. I don't really have much to say.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, please share this video, because today's episode is a very unusual and very interesting one for sure. We have witches who are conjuring plans to depose Putin. Do you know that?
No.
I'm going to show you the occult war, because I mean, we are really discussing things that are happening, not theories. We're not theorizing here. We are
those
giving
the
you
same
the facts.
witches that tried to curse Donald Trump?
Okay. You actually said something which is not so far from the truth. They actually are working, but for a different ritual, and we're gonna go and analyze that too. Headed by, of course, the same usual Michael M. Hughes, that, by the way, I cited also in my books, including volume 7 of my Confessions. So you intercepted something there, Christy. You intercepted something.
Oh.
First of all, let's go inside, because these rituals will be conducted in different days. And the ritual that of that person, that Freemason, Illuminati kind of witch, which I like I said, I cited because of this book, Magic of the Resistance, which was basically a book against to instruct people on doing magical rituals against Trump. And I wanted to talk about them today also, but of course in a second, because first I want to show what they are doing in Ukraine, and then we're gonna go back here to the US, where of course Michael M. Hughes is also cursing Vladimir Putin and doing a ritual against him in a few days. What is the difference between the two rituals? First of all, let's go to the first thing I showed you, which is the local witches of Ukraine, who are doing a ritual at the end of this month. And it says here, Ukrainian witches are seeking to hold a special three-step ritual to oust Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Union Agency has reported, citing a statement by a Kiev-based witch cauldron esoteric shop, on March 31st, on the 29th lunar day, the day of corruption and curses, we, the witches of Ukraine, in collaboration with foreign partners, will perform a ritual of punishing the enemy of the Ukrainian people, Vladimir Putin. The statement was posted, of course, on Instagram. The ritual will be performed in 3 phases, with the first scheduled to happen at Ukraine's place of power. The witch stated, apparently referring to the Bald Mountain outside Kiev. So far, 13 sorcerers have expressed willingness to take part in the anti-Putin coven. The second event is said to be held in an unspecified Slavic country in cooperation with foreign colleagues. The ritual is expected to conclude with the creation of a stone sack for Russia's president, who will supposedly face isolation, ousting from power, and loss of support from the inner circle. While the witch did not specify when exactly the ritual was expected to take effect, their plans have already apparently run into certain issues. Remember that giving you this news is RT, which was banned here in the West, which is Russia Today, which is a state media outlet in Russia. In a subsequent Instagram statement, the witches admitted that their enemy had a strong protection. So they admitted that in Russia, the enemy had a strong protection. Let's remember that Russia is the country of Rasputin. It's not the country of any magician, but one of the most famous sorcerers and witches of all time, which is, of course, Rasputin. When Rasputin died, the Russian Revolution started. And the ritual called Ultimate Backfire and harm those partaking. It said the people, they actually admitted that. So the Ukrainians said that the ritual could ultimately backfire. They're a bit scared about it. Still, the witches have reiterated their resolve to perform it, insisting that they know what they are doing. And they said, and here Christy can read it because you can read this part here, Christy.
Our rite has been developed by a team of serious practitioners from day one. We are ready. We did a lot of preparatory work, breaking through the defenses of enemies, carefully planning and selecting rituals, the witches claimed. Why do I have to speak for the witches?
Well, no, yeah, female voice. The looming esoteric assault on Russia, President comes amid the large-scale military attack launched by Moscow last month. And now, let me show you instead what the guy you mentioned earlier, Christy, because you mentioned instead Michael M. Hughes. And so let's go to Michael M. Hughes. Let's remember this guy has been cited in several of my publications, including volume 7 of my Confessions, and not because he's such a good guy. Okay, so let's go into the Tribune, because this article actually references to him, and then we're going to go on his own website to see what he's doing and planning, I think for the 23rd of April, which is, of course, a different date. Foreign sorcerers to also partake in 3 days long ceremony, and here they talk about toppling Putin, and it's the ritual we just mentioned. But moving forward in this article, if I don't get it wrong here somewhere, maybe this is not the right one. Let me see if I can find it. Just a second, guys. Sometimes you can't always find everything at in the first moment. So the other article, which of course instead talks about it, and this is of course here we are. Let me see if I can find this. Is instead this. We go directly on Michael Hughes, and this is instead the other article, The Hex on Putin, Saturday, April 23. Now, can you put the temperature down?
I have a question.
Yes. So, as you can see, they will be doing a collective ritual on Saturday, April 23 at 7:33 EDT, or as close as you can get to the time. And every Saturday thereafter. They already started, apparently, last month. So the first mass ritual took place at 7:33 EST on Wednesday, March 2nd. And continues weekly. So you see, this is, of course, this mass ritual is open source, but please link to the page. Full permission, encouragement granted for translation, especially Russian and Ukraine duplication. So, global mass ritual to curse Vladimir Putin by Michael M. Hughes, who is a Freemason, who is a member of the Society Rosicruciana in America, supposedly Christian, but he's not, of course.
Isn't he a witch?
He's a witch, in fact.
So how can he be Christian?
But in fact, he's not. And he's part of the York Rite. So a shame on all the members of the York Rite in the United States. Definitely. Because, I mean, he is definitely somebody who is trying to use black magic. And here is the article that I was actually trying to find earlier, which explains it a little bit better. Okay, so here we are. This is an article from March 14th. And here, in fact, it says, in the ritual published by Michael Hughes, one of the few political activists for whom magical thinking is a job description rather than an insult. Blue and yellow candles are lit, sunflower seeds are dropped onto a photograph of Putin marked with a sigil, and the photograph is then burnt. Because he has created a seal, a demonic seal. I mean, what you saw before on his X is a demonic seal. We can go back on it.
What?
This.
It's terrible.
Here, and I can show it a bit better. Let's see if we have.
Well, obviously their hexes.
Here, this is the symbol that they're using.
I want to look at that.
And you're welcome to use this sigil, it said. Putin sigil. What we are discussing today, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Leo Zagami show. We are the only show on the internet at the moment focusing on the occult side of the war in Ukraine. So I hope that you can spread this video through your social networks of choice, and please feel free to download it on your computers, upload it on your YouTube channels. This is, of course, a very important show because we are discussing here black magic and Satanism in a war, which, of course, everybody's talking about, but nobody's talking about the occult side of it. And so, this is the seal, Putin seal. Please feel free to duplicate, use as your avatar, etc. Before you begin, if your tradition use a protection magic, do it. If not, a prayer to Saint Michael would be a good choice. There's a Ukrainian Orthodox version here, and a traditional Catholic version here. So, I mean, these people are using black magic, but then they're using Psalms, they're using Orthodox and Catholic tradition.
I think it's like to throw people off, so then they think it's good.
And then it says the ritual. This is the ritual. Light the blue and yellow candles as you light in them. Bless and protect Ukraine.
I don't want to see
And then hear me, O spirits of water, blah, 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 angels of heavens and demons of the underworld, and all this. And all this. And then it says here, Vladimir Putin, you are cursed, you are bound. This is the at the end, and then drop sunflower seeds onto the picture of Putin. And here it says,
well, that's just horrible. I don't.
And then, of course, there is also pronounce idna oi Putin, which means go fuck yourself, Putin. And then here is you have to say loudly with a conviction this other phrase. And that, of course, says harming none other than the object of this malediction. So it's a malediction. This is, of course, the seal that they are using for this X, and the candles. Then there is the Russian pronunciation. So it's very detailed. Let's remember that the guy who wrote this has been exposed by me already in my previous book. I mean, not only in volume 7, but I also mentioned him in volume 4, I think, and I think even volume, I mean, the guy has been exposed in my books, I think even volume 5. So, I mean, he's been exposed quite a lot by me, because of this book that he made to extract witches worldwide against Trump. Now, he claims he's been successful with all this, in the sense in the past, with his curse against Trump. So now, of course, they are trying in every way possible, also the mainstream media, to give some attention to this guy. And we are discussing it here on a show because this show today is about the occult side of this work. So I know that the topic might be a little bit annoying, but it's important that we discuss it. Look how the libtards are introducing this and how they are really promoting it, even in a way, as a positive thing, the use of magic against Putin. It says here, within 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here it says, Michael Hughes has formed 5 years ago. He was behind the binding ritual against Donald Trump, which involved the banning of an unflattering photograph of the president, a visual appealing photograph, it was made clear, would not be suitable material. This ceremony had the option, as the president turned to ash, to chain either so mote be, a ritual phrase in Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, or Wicca, or if preferred, you are fired. Now, this guy is a member of the Ordo Templi Orientis, and where we can prove that? We can prove that also by the acknowledgements here, the praise for magic resistance that he got even from Lon Milo Duquette, who is also a Freemason, but is also Deputy Grand Master of the Ordo Templi Orientis. It says here, then put your magic where your mouth is. You might want to start by reading Magic for Resistance. Lon Milo Duquette, author of Homemade Magic and Low Magic. But Lon Milo Duquette is the Deputy Grand Master of the Ordo Templi Orientis, aside from being a 32 or 33rd degree, actually by now I think it's a 33rd degree, of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of the Supreme Council of the State of California. So it's quite incredible, though, that this Michael M. Hughes is in the York Rite. Now we have here brothers like Corey from the York Rite, who will be pretty shocked to find in their chapter a guy like Michael M. Hughes. Don't you think so, Corey? Not good. Not good. Not good.
Satanist? This
What?
Michael Hughes is
Of course he's a Satanist. Of course he's a Satanist. Of
It's
course.
the same old story.
Oh, it's absolutely the same old story. We, in the meantime, want you to go deep today into the rabbit hole. That's why I put Alice in Wonderland here. Deep into the rabbit hole, because, of course, we are, and Corey also is a commander of the Knights Templar in the York Rite, and I'm sure you agree, Corey, that having a guy like Michael M. Hughes in the craft and in the York Rite is not good. But these guys from the OTO are everywhere, you know. They are like flies. Of course, then we have somebody who talks about the Sabbatean Frankist, and that is also very important to remember. But going back to the subject of today, so we were discussing the involvement of this Michael M. Hughes, and here it says that you know, it's not a new thing that magic is being used in wars and in battles. You know, Aleister Crowley claimed that the B sign was actually, this sign was actually given by him. Then they say that Churchill created this for a sign for victory, but in reality, everybody in the occult circles knows that it was from the lesser ritual of the hexagram, the B representing Apophis, the destroyer, who is slaying Osiris, which is symbolized by the sign the Nazis used to give, and which is a sign which is also given, both signs are given within the Golden Dawn. So, and then we have Crowley, of course, that repeatedly offered his esoteric services, even when, of course, Rudolf Hess was arrested after he arrived in Great Britain. I've discussed these topics, of course, very much in my books. But it's interesting how they resurface now that this war in Ukraine is bringing, to some extent, the magicians back out of the closet. And, of course, here it discusses also another figure, which is a contemporary figure, Dominic Cummings. Now, Dominic Cummings is known as a sort of wizard of the dark arts, who is actually involved in Boris Johnson's government. So here is basically saying Dominic Cummings is Merlin, only that people, he's not saying, of course, he's Merlin, but people say, people talk about him as if he were. And it's very interesting, this political dimension to magic, especially in Scotland here, the article also points out. So there is definitely, and then it talks about Gerald Gardner, the grandfather of modern Wicca, and talks also about the occultist Louis Wilkinson, which was supposed to be inheriting the OTO from Crowley, but then the American OTO took over the show. And he claimed that some of the most elderly participants died as a result of psychic energy when they did an article against, ritual against Hitler, a ritual that was put together by various magicians. Interesting, eh?
Mhm.
And basically, apparently, some of the elderly magicians actually died. But I mean, we have also other stories regarding the use of magic in war. John Dee, right at the time of Elizabeth I, and the attempt that there was to prevent the Armada invading. And then we have Bonaparte in 1800 and Hitler in 1940. There is all kinds of occasions that are brought together to just show how magic have been always present.
I have a question.
Okay.
With Hitler, didn't he like actually do rituals with
Yes.
other?
Well, we had both Himmler, the head of the SS, which was absolutely obsessed with magic, and in fact, Himmler's, somebody is talking about Michael Aquino, and in Invisible Master, my book Invisible Master, I talk about Michael Aquino going back to the headquarters of the SS in Bessenburg, the castle that was used by the SS to perform a ritual. So definitely that is a good example that somebody is pointing out also in the chat. But I, of course, discussed very much Michael Aquino's figure in my books, also because at one point I had a direct connection with him. Leo, when you were in the Illuminati, were you taught the secrets of many of manifesting money? What does that mean? Sorry, Christy, you know English, but
Where is it? Of festing money.
Oh, manifesting money.
Manifesting.
Ah, well, of course, there is some Illuminati who have managed to use that kind of techniques, but you have to give yourself up to the demonic realm and to the use of genies, as they would say in the Islamic tradition. These entities, there was a guy called Ciro Formisano, known to the Illuminati as Kremers, who mastered so well this kind of art that he actually won at the casino in Monte Carlo enormous sums of money and ended up dying there in near Monte Carlo many years after. So, no, I never met Aquino. I was supposed to meet him, but we were basically corresponding with each other when I was in the Monte Carlo Lodge, because he was supposed to come to the Principality of Monaco, but never made it. And in the Principality of Monaco, in the Monte Carlo Lodge, there were also a lot of people involved with black ops and so on. So we are discussing today black magic and Satanism, and of course, in this war in Ukraine, and I have actually published a article which had quite a lot of success, Christian. It was very successful, this article. It's entitled Satan is being rehabilitated in the West and now endorses Ukraine. Because you see, what the people don't know is that since the beginning of the war, both the Satanic Temple and the Church of Lucifer, which are two popular satanic institutions, have actually endorsed openly Ukraine in this war. Of course, they have been invaded, so they are defending themselves, but it's kind of interesting to see how Satan is being rehabilitated here in the West. Why did I say that? Because the Satanic Temple nowadays, which was founded 10 years ago, and you see here in a tweet with the colors of Ukraine, we stand for peace, with the symbol of Satan, is so, I mean, it's so paradox. It's a paradox. I mean, and then it says the Satanic Temple, in the face of the immense humanitarian crisis arising out of Ukraine, the Satanic Temple has moved quickly to aid its Ukrainian Satanist members to gain accommodation and other necessities while fleeing the war.
See, Ukrainian Satanist members.
Yeah.
They must have a lot of them.
Yeah, they must have a
That's
lot.
why this is all normal for them, because
And
they're
then
just a
there is
bunch of
another
Satanists.
church, the Neo-Luciferian Church, known as the Church of Lucifer, based in Denmark, which derives from Carl William Hansen named Ben Kadosh. Now, Carl William Hansen, Ben Kadosh is one of the very few members of the OTO who ever participated whoever conducted, the ritual of the magic of Abramelin the Mage. And so he's known within the OTO as being one of, and from him and from Michael Berthiaud sprang this organization, which is now active also in California and Texas and other states in America. And this church also gave their support to the war in Ukraine. So, of course, in the meantime, we have also Satanism and occultism in Russia. Now, the great thinker, philosopher, column advisor to President Vladimir Putin is Dugin. Now, Dugin, which you ever heard of Alexander Dugin, Christy? Yeah. He looks very much like Rasputin. He's kind of like the modern Rasputin. Now, this guy, I've crossed very many paths with him, I had many common friends, published an enormously influential book in the 90s. Alexander Dugin, you see, but he was in the 80s involved in occultism, sex magic. He actually connected with the OTO. He did all kinds of things. But today he says he's Christian and he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And he refused interviews about his occult past. He refused interviews about his occult past. I find it very interesting, though, because he definitely is a charismatic guy with a lot of knowledge in the geopolitical arena, but also a lot of knowledge in the esoteric and occult. Ukrainian church leader says Vladimir Putin possessed by Satan. That is what instead the Ukrainians said about Putin. So, there is... Each one is kind of fighting each other with accusation, mutual accusations. You are Satanist, you are not a Satanist. But definitely, it's very interesting how in Russia, though, in the last, I would say, in the last decade, this war against Satanists got more and more intense. Now, I was involved with it at one point. I was involved in the dismantling of a satanic organization in Russia in the early 2000s, when I was going backwards and forwards from Russia. And I had information about this group that was, of course, linked also with basically, they had an image of George W. Bush as a portrait in their temple. That gives it out a little bit, but this group was dismantled after that. There was a satanic group. But there was also, other groups that were, of course, probably not dismantled. But there is a lot of Satanism that went under the scrutiny of the security services in the last few years. And that's because Satanism was accused by the Russian authorities, the authorities of the Russian Federation, of Satanist spies are turning young Russians into extremists, says Putin aide. So foreign spies, opposition groups, and Satanists are to blame for young Russians turning into extremists. This was said by one of Kremlin's top security advisors in 2018, speaking at an event dedicated to discussing the spread of destructive views amongst the youth of today. The head of Russia's Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, accused a range of groups of leading young people astray. Amongst the number of factors that form the foundation for the emergency of extremist actions among the youth are domestic issues, as well as the activity of intelligence services and organizations from other countries, along with Russian opposition structures that followed their lead. Patrushev said, state news agency ITAR-TASS reported. These groups are allegedly working to ruin the moral basis, historical foundation, and patriotic tradition of Russia, according to Patrushev. In fact, I discussed in my recent article, Christy, that guy, that you laughed and said, but this must not be his real name. Sataninsky. It happened. It happened that in 2016, this guy who we don't know if it's his real name, he's called Oleg Sataninsky.
Oleg Satanisky.
Well, probably is not. The Moscow Times could not affirm it was his real name, but he registered a satanic church. That was the first time in Russia they had, a legally registered satanic church. And he said that he was, though, patriotic and pro-Russia and pro-Putin. But since that happened, it didn't really it didn't really work out for the Satanists in Russia, because of course the patriarch of Russia didn't like that. While instead here in the West, Satanism has become widely acceptable. In 2019, the Satanic Temple, which I talked about in my books, was founded and I also talk in this book in volume 4 in relationship with Antifa and how their membership at time overlaps the Antifa one.
I just read the thing on there. It said, "Are Satanists now the good guys?"
Yes, because basically this is really what the left is trying to sell us here. No, watch this. This is The Guardian. It's an English libtard leftist.
Satanists now the good guys in the fight against the
evangelical right.
Right, I can see that.
Evangelical right is American evangelical movement.
I have a hard time saying that word.
Okay. A new film, Hell Satan, portrays the Satanic Temple as a voice of reason and humanism in the US. A voice of reason. I mean, it's insane. This is what the West is doing. The West is glorifying Satanists like Lucian Greaves.
Demonic.
I know, more demonic than Lucian Greaves, which 10 years ago transformed basically Satanism, because this is, you see, there was 3 stages in modern Satanism. There was the 1966 modern pop-tastic vision of Satanism endorsed and promoted by Anton LaVey, whose real name was Anton Levi, unfortunately, a Sabbatean Frankist Jew. That happens. Then we have in 1974-75 the schism from the Church of Satan, Michael Aquino. And then from Michael Aquino's Temple of Set, here it comes, this guy, Lucian Greaves, which of course is not his real name. We have given his real names in my publications, though. And you can see really where the West is failing in opposing Satanism, why Russia is actually taking action. We are kind of endorsing. I read Marx and Satan by Richard Blumenbrand. I actually cited it in volume 5 of my Confessions book. It's a great book, definitely, Marx, because it was written by somebody who, unfortunately, was a victim of communism in Eastern Europe and understood completely what Karl Marx and Satan have in common and what communism and Satan have in common. Definitely a great book. Over the past century, I have it now only on PDF, but it's a great book. It's a great book. Over the past century of popular culture, Satan has acquired the souls of Delta blues musicians, blah blah blah. I mean, it's like they kind of like encourage almost, no?
What?
The nature of his game has been puzzling us. This paraphrase the sympathy of the devil of the Rolling Stones, no? The forces aligned against Satan have become, and actually in sympathy for the devil, it's like Russia is cited. It's like I was there, and it was like one of the moments of sympathy for the devil was just prior to the revolution. I think is a citation from that moment in which, of course, we see then with the Soviet Revolution a complete destruction of the Christian faith and a persecution of it. Now, in Russia, of course, we can't not talk about Russia without mentioning also the Master and Margarita, this great book by Michael Bulgakov, who, of course, came out only in the 60s, but it was written in the Soviet Union between 1928 and 1940. And it's basically the story of Satan that arrives in atheist Russia, and it's definitely a very interesting book, a book that originally came out and was first published, of course, in an edited censored version in Russia for the Moscow magazine, and then later on was published in all over the world, and it's still to this day is regarded as one of the best books ever written in the Russian language. I repeat, Satan appears in the middle of Moscow in a very beautiful place called the Patriarch Ponds. Actually, there's only one pond, but it's a beautiful place. So you have this building that surrounds this majestic pond in the heart of Moscow, and then from there on there is one of the most unusual stories. There was actually a film made, an Italian film made about this book, and filmed in Russia during the Soviet times. It became gradually a more acceptable book, but it was a book that made a claim that was also very popular in Soviet Russia: the mental health of Jesus. Now, I know that this, for Christians, and of course anybody that respects Jesus, even if not Christian, will sound outrageous. But there was really an attempt to portray Jesus as an insane individual, because by portraying him as an insane individual, they will, of course, diminish the importance of his figure. And so there was imagine this, Christy, there was a Soviet psychiatrist in 1927 who diagnosed Jesus suffering from paranoia. The literature of the Soviet Union in the 1920s followed, of course, a demonization and demytholization of Jesus in various works. And they put forward the two themes: mental illness and deception of Jesus. And this was, of course, reflected also in Bulgakov's novel, The Master and Margarita, in which Jesus is depicted by Pontius Pilate as a harmless madman. Now, Jesus' mental health, because Satanists like to really play always the same card, that Jesus is insane. Jesus has a problem with the mental health. I mean, great for them. I mean, it seems like even crazy that we have to discuss this subject, but it is a subject, guys. It's not a joke. It's a subject that really has even a Wikipedia voice. If you don't believe me, and you can go and check it yourself. Mental health of Jesus. So this is just so. No. So what happens here with the mental health of Jesus? There is basically, as I said, the Soviet psychiatrists launched this trend, but then in the 60s and then later on, in the 90s, there was a book by an English psychiatrist who tended to draw similarities between crazy messiahs such as Jim Jones, Koresh, and all these crazy lunatics. I mean, we're talking here about, David Koresh. I mean, we're talking about the guy, one of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist, the branch Davidians. I mean, the Waco siege is known by everybody, but you can't, sincerely, you can't equiparate in any way Jim Jones and David Koresh with Jesus. But this happened with Anthony Storr in his book, Feet of Clay, Saints, Sinners, and Madmen, a study of gurus. So this is also something that is being reoccurring. Now, it's like the Storr recognizes in Jesus many similarities to other gurus, basically. And this internal conflict and the fact that, of course, then the savior of mankind wasn't really what they portray him to be, but was rather an insane individual. This is really what happens here, guys. And the most crazy thing is that in 2012, a team of psychiatrists, behavioral psychologists, neurologists, neuropsychiatrists from Harvard Medical School, published a research that suggested the development of a new diagnostic category of psychiatric disorders related to religious delusion and hyper-religiosity. They compared these people, the thoughts and behaviors of the most important figures in the Bible. I'm talking here not only then Jesus is the New Testament, here I'm talking about Abraham, Moses, with patients affected by mental disorders. And related to the psychotic spectrum, which is a mental disorder that includes a range of linked conditions. So, what are these mental conditions? Schizophrenia disorder, manic depression, delusional disorder, delusion of grandeur, audiovisual hallucination, paranoia, Gaussian syndrome, and all kinds of things. In fact, the interesting thing about all this is that when the Tavistock Institute locked me up, they came up with this diagnosis, accommodating me with people like Mussolini, Napoleon. I said, who? Jesus Christ too? I don't know. This is like insane, guys. And Christy knows very well what I have to go through. So I was in good company with all the great people in history who meant something to me, because, I mean, I prefer to be associated with the great people of history than rather their small, pathetic individuals that live today's life in their kind of like boxes and following the narrow-minded word, that's one word ideology.
If a psychiatrist got a hold of any one of us here, they would think we were crazy too, that we're hyper-religious, that the things we believe in, they would say it's wrong. Those leftist psychiatrists.
And so somebody's also bringing, Manly P. Hall wrote rightly that the psychoanalysts were trying to portray and paint prophets as insane, and that miracles didn't exist. Absolutely. I mean, this is like, and the fact that Giuseppe Nicolò, who was this, you remember that doctor, who admitted he was working for the Tavistock Institute, told I had the same symptoms. Well, guys, I was rather relieved. Now, it's like, of course, you have then the opinions of the people who defend the sanity of Jesus. But the criticism that these people have given towards...
Isn't it just blasphemy even to just say this?
I mean, of course. Of course. But these people, they are so evil that is beyond... I mean, you saw, Christy, how they treated me in that kind of setup. You saw how I got into that kind of setup, and
It could happen to anybody.
It could happen to anybody.
Anybody like us in a place like that, trying to like waken people and thinking differently than other people. I mean, that's what they do. They just lock you in.
And the crazy thing is that these people, though, like, for example, Dr. Nikolai Frisford, who was officially a psychiatrist and directing a mental health institute in Norway at the time when I was there, then in the night there were black magicians sacrificing black cats or doing all kinds of weird rituals. And this is really, these people are Satanists. That is really Satanist. Now, we want to welcome all the people who have tuned in. I see that there is rather a few. Of course, please put like, try to subscribe to both our YouTube channels in case one of them is put down. There's the canale ufficiale del Leo Zagami Show, and the other one, which is the Zagaman, new channel for the Leo Zagami Show.
Can I share a story?
Yes.
Okay. When you were in the hospital, I would go and visit you.
Yes.
And then I would go back home, and I would be very lonely and sad and by myself, and I would pray, and I would pray a lot, and I would imagine you there, and I would try to like send you light. And I don't know, like during that time, I was like, I don't do it now, but during that time I meditated a lot. And I was just like, I don't know, like I was using a lot of crystals and I was meditating and stuff I don't do anymore. But at the time I was doing that, which like in retrospect, it didn't help me at all. Actually, like it made me more vulnerable to being attacked because it opened me up to bad things when I was in a bad place. So like right now where I am now, I don't feel vulnerable like that anymore because I've taken completely, like I'm under the protection of God and Jesus Christ, and I realize that I don't need anything like crystals or anything like that. But in my learning process, this was like, back in 2014 when this happened, I was still learning and I had a good heart. I just didn't really know what I was doing. And so anyway, I thought I had left my body and actually astral traveled, which is something I wouldn't do now. But I mean, I saw myself doing it, and like I went to the hospital, and in my mind, I was just going to send you light, and send you like good energy. And so I did this thing that I did. And the next day I went and visited you in the hospital. And one of the patients came up to me and he's like, I saw you last night. He spoke really good English. And he said, I saw you last night. I saw you last night. You were here. You came. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, you were here. I saw you. You were like an angel. And so I don't know, like my thought on people with schizophrenia, I just think that maybe they just have a connection, like a deep connection with God, or, maybe darker forces sometimes also, so anyway, I just wanted to share that.
No, I think it's a great insight on something that really should be analyzed more carefully, but unfortunately we don't have any possibility of doing official studies on the subject of being so open. Those people who are in those mental institutes are open.
They're
open, and of course they're open also to the demonic. There was a description made by Eliphas Levi in his Dogmas and Rituals of Magic regarding the people who are mentally insane, that are like zombies at times. But they can also have the other way around, some connection with the light, with the positive, So going back to witchcraft and magic, in both Russia and Ukraine, there is witchcraft and magic, well before the 1900s. And, when you think of a witch, you don't really imagine Russian trapper in far eastern Siberia or a set of written spells stuck in their belt. But then that's what happened, and then you have also even Orthodox priests that were equipped with the spells to win to defend themselves. Of course, probably not Orthodox priests who were rather probably deviated from the path. We have people like Rasputin, definitely very much embedded in magic. He apparently was also a member of a secret society, was initiated into shamanism in Siberia. And so magic has been always widespread in Russia and in Ukraine. And there has been a lot of magic that has been present in those areas for hundreds and hundreds of years, with herbs, potions, spells, charms, and all kinds of things. Now, this war, of course, is seeing two fronts fighting each other, also magically. And as you have seen, as we have said at the beginning of the show, even the Ukrainian magicians who are doing this ritual against Russia, they are rather afraid because they know that it's a very powerful force also in Russia. But then you have God. You have God, which is, of course, you don't need magic when you have God. Magic is practice when you don't really have, of course, then you have a different form of connection also with the malediction. I mean, when Moses was, of course, fighting to get the Jewish people out of Egypt, he was with God, and he, of course, the plagues, he launched these plagues on Egypt, and that is not black magic. That's simply being in line with God for a higher purpose. And the higher purpose was to bring, of course, if he was coming around today, Moses goes up to Mount Sinai. By the time he comes down, they will lock him up in a mental institute. Unfortunately, that's what happens these days. There is this really this war against religion, this war against beliefs. And I'm talking about Moses bringing out his people out of Egypt. We just, of course, went through the most important days with the Passover, with also Easter for the Christians, Resurrection Day. We are in the middle of Ramadan for the Muslims. There is a lot of tension, of course, also at the moment in the Holy Land, especially in where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is, because, of course, that's where maybe a fair temple could be rebuilt in the future. I want to thank all the people who have tuned in. At this point, Christy, as usual, we like to open the phone line because this is the moment that Christy loves is to interact with our audience. Our question for you today is, of course, regarding this black magic, this Satanism that is, of course, being encountered also in this magical war, also not only a war of bombs, and a war of words, but also war in the invisible realm. And so we would like to know from you your own experiences, and if you believe that this show today and the subject that we've been discussing, which is basically the occult war, is relevant or not. I think that would be an interesting question, for the people who are calling in, to understand if our audience thinks we are in a spiritual war in the end times, and that the dark arts are being used, and against the dark arts we can use the power of prayer. Remember that in all this, guys, we talked about, of course, the magical beliefs that are alive and well in popular culture in Ukraine, in Russia, even today. I must say that after the fall of the Soviet Union, really, these beliefs came back even stronger in Russia. And there is definitely been a lot of witchcraft in Russia and Ukraine, guys. So this is not a subject to be taken lightly. But I will definitely like to have your point of view, to see what you think about this magical war which is happening behind the scenes. Because remember that the New World Order is, of course, aided and abetted by Satanists who are using black magic. And it's obvious here when we see a guy like the author of this book, Michael Hughes, doing a curse, an X on Vladimir Putin, after doing one on Donald J. Trump, where we're heading. No? So I think at this point, I will open the phone line. Rambo, you think we should open the phone line? We should pick up Rambo because Rambo wants to participate.
No.
I know, but look at him.
I don't want to.
He's so cute.
I'm not looking.
I know, but Rambo wants to
I'm not
participate.
looking. He's staring. I can see him.
Okay, no curses, please. Okay. So +1 970 577 6369. You Christy can read again maybe the phone number. I'm just gonna open the line, and we are basically able now to take your phone calls. Please call in +1 970 577 6369 if you are interested in discussing today's topic, which I find extremely interesting. But maybe some people will probably think it's interesting, but maybe we can't really contribute and we don't want to call. But please call. I think it's a great thing to call in, and it's a great thing to learn from each other. At times we learn from each other. So God is sovereign, definitely. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Who am I talking with? Hello?
Hi, Leo.
Yes.
How are you? This is Scotty.
Hi,
Scotty.
Hi, Scotty.
Okay, where are you calling from?
How you guys doing? I love your show, by the way. I just tuned in like a few minutes ago, or maybe 10 minutes, something like that. I got two questions for you, actually, maybe three. First question is you dabbled in this stuff. How do you get out of it?
Well, I got out of it because I had great faith in God, and I had to also go through.
How do you get out if you're in
a person?
Yeah, no. Well, I can give you my example because I think it would work for other people.
Yes, go.
I got exorcised. I think that the only way you have to literally get out of it.
I was actually exercised as well. So
yes,
even if you think you're like, so good, these demons, they get attached. So sometimes you have to be exercised to get rid of all of them.
So there is no way of getting out of it without being subject to an exorcism. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Any other question? You said you have 3 questions. That was the first one. And the second one?
Okay. Have you ever heard of Todd Collins, Lance Collins?
Sorry?
Todd Collins.
Lance Collins, Todd Collins, or Lance Johnny Todd?
No, not that.
Okay.
If you, of course, I'm under. Who are we talking with? About? Sorry.
Well, okay, he was the guy back in the 70s who was supposed to be a witch.
Yeah, sure. But you haven't pronounced his name well. I think I understand.
Yeah, I don't know his name, like what his real name is.
I think I tell you, because I remember. Yes.
He was supposed to be in the Illuminati. He's supposedly in the Illuminati.
Yes. Yes, he was John Todd. John Todd.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry. Thank you very much. He made these tapes back in the 70s, and
yeah.
Pretty much everything that you've been saying, Jones and whatever, etc. It's happening. So, and my final question would be, I don't know how to say this. What if you were
Just
How do you
say
get back to
it.
Christ when you trample him underfoot?
Sorry? Understand?
Can
How
you
do you get back to Christ if you trampled him underfoot? Like Hebrews says, you can't be saved.
I think
You know,
that absolutely you can always be saved by Christ. Now, when it comes to John Todd, there is a problem with that individual, though he said some very, I mean, he really published a book on Chick publication, more than a book that was relevant. But the problem I have with him is that, as you know, in 1988, he was convicted on charges of rape and sentenced to 30 years in prison.
so they say yes.
Yeah, so in 2004 he was released from the prison and placed in a psychiatric facility where he eventually died in 2007. Now, I know that these psychiatric facilities are often used in an improper way because I had a direct experience. I don't know, though, about his charges of rape, because that definitely means that he was never really sincere about having come back, coming out of witchcraft and converting to Christianity, because when you act in that way, it means that you were not sincere. So that is the answer I can give you regarding John Todd. Regarding, though, the last question, I think that it's very important to understand that I come from a Catholic background, and so we are used to confession and to be able to be purified in this act of confession from our sins, as long as we are sincere. Of course, I never committed sins that might have been, I never killed anybody or participated to a human sacrifice. I always refused to participate even to animal sacrifices. And I was kind of very adamant in kind of keeping myself at a distance, even if it wasn't easy, because in those kind of setups, it wasn't easy, I must admit. But I never committed that kind of act. I don't know if committing that kind of act, I would have been forgiven. But I must say that I believe that Jesus forgives.
Yeah, 1 John, or is it 1 John?
Sorry?
Is it 1 John, or one, or John says that?
I haven't. Sorry, I have some problems in understanding what you're saying, because at the same time I have Rambo that is walking around creating panic on the floor here. We just captured him.
Okay.
Just a second,
All right,
we captured him. Bring him here, so we can show it.
I think that
Christy wants to say
if
something.
you're a person that dabbled in occult stuff, and even if you've done rituals and that kind of thing, ask and you shall receive. If you go to God and God knows what your heart is. You can't hide anything from God. So if you go and you ask God for forgiveness and you ask God for help, God will always come and help. That's what I believe. I really believe.
So I hope that this was.
Thank you very much, Christy. That's basically what I wanted to hear, because after hearing your testimony about
actually, I don't know if you read books, but if you read books and you want to know more about Christie's history, volume 1 and 2 of her own Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, are very much about
my spiritual thing that I went through.
Yes, and even the errors that were done.
If you're making mistakes, God shows you, and you learn from them. Everything's a lesson, and so God wants you to learn from your mistakes, and He wants you to be the best that you can be. That's what God wants for you. Satan doesn't want that. Satan wants you to suffer, but God wants you to be happy. And so, if you have, if you want, just go to God, and He'll forgive you. So,
of course, the question about being in a spiritual warfare is possible. It's like you obviously believe that we are in a spiritual warfare.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. So
I know. Yes, I do.
Well, I'm grateful
Yes, that's well, I'm sorry I wasn't thorough with that. Yes.
Well, I'm grateful that you call in.
I think it's all spiritual.
And yes, of course, it's all spiritual before it becomes also it kind of arrives in this dimension, and unfortunately becomes then also physical warfare, like the one we are witnessing. Thank you for calling
Thanks,
today.
buddy. Have a nice day.
And welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with? Hello?
Cameron from Houston, Texas.
Hi,
Oh,
Cameron.
welcome. So, what is your take today on the topic we have discussed?
Oh, I think it's very interesting. I would like to share an experience that I had a while back.
Sure.
Considering on the topic, if that's okay.
Sure. Please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So years ago, like I went to this cemetery that was supposedly haunted. Me and my best friend, and I ended up sitting on this, statue. Well, later on, some weird stuff was happening in my apartment, and a neighbor that I didn't talk to, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I don't know what you're into, but you got something weird in your closet." And then, so this guy was able to he came in and he did those spades, but he started speaking the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. And he was telling me that
I hear you. Sorry if you seem muffled. The phone line is a little bit muffled. Can you repeat and talk closely to the microphone so we can listen a little bit better what you're saying? I mean,
so we heard the prayer, like you were saying.
Yes, in Aramaic. Who said the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic? Sorry.
He was my old neighbor.
Okay, so he detected something evil in your place?
Yes, it followed me from the cemetery. And when I looked at the pictures, the statue that I was next to, it had a Freemason. It was a Freemason. And then so the guy came over and he helped me out a little bit and kind of got me in tune with my guardian angel and was telling me, kind of telling me how to build a better connection with him.
Oh, wow. Well, you felt better after?
Yeah.
Did you feel the dark thing around you when it was around you, or?
Yeah. So when we got back to the cemetery, it was like this heavy presence, and my friend Brandon, who was there, who witnessed some of the things, it was this foul smell of.
Oh, well, it seems like this presence is kind of muffling your microphone here, but we understood, and we kind of exercised it another time just to make sure that it's not following your microphone for the next time you call in. But thank you so much for calling in as usual. And you have any question for us today?
No, that's it. Just wanted to.
Okay, that is good. You contributed. I like the fact that people like you can contribute with your testimony on how these things can literally affect you, and how we need to be more serious about having these kind of things attached to us, because they really can ruin our life. These demonic presences,
it'll attach to you.
This is very important. A lot
remember the series Orient of the Grand Orient.
Sure, Giancarlo Seri, the Grand Hierophant of the Memphis and Mizraim, which is, by the way, the General Grand is also for Russia. So I mean,
so he's like this pretty big guy, and we met him. We were in that area of Tuscany, and we met him, right?
Yes.
And so it was on my birthday that we met him, and he said, "Oh, you look well," but then he gave me a really weird look, and he had seen something attached to me, and this is when we were in Italy. This is about 2015, after we had got back from America and all that. So he had actually seen something attached to me, and he said, and at the time I was reading a lot of books. I was reading books on occultism. I just was trying to learn things, I was reading books by Israel Regardie, and so just from reading those books, I had this thing attached to me, you know, because as soon as those demons see that you have some kind of little interest, they just take that as a, hello, I'm here. You know, it's their invitation to, you know, blast into your life and try to ruin it. And it can cause depression. You know, you can start drinking. The demon wants you to do bad things. For me, I was depressed when I was in Italy, and I didn't, you know, you don't realize that you have this thing. You just feel down all the time. And then, you know, your circumstances too, they never get better, and your outlook on life doesn't get better. And you think that you're doing something good by, you know, you're opening up your knowledge and you're realizing things. But in the end, I after a couple more years of making mistakes, I realized that in praying, I prayed to God the whole time. You know, I was a pretty innocent person reading these things. So never was a Satanist, never believed in Satan. You know, Satan was going to have any effect on my life. But these dark forces, they come in if you invite them, and you invite them by having interest in the occult. So that's why I don't have any interest in it.
So at times it's better to avoid. Thank you so much for calling in, and of course, call us also in the future.
All right, Leo, Chris, y'all have a good night.
You too.
All the best, all the best. Now we are of course near the end of the show, but we can still take another phone call. No, what do you think, Christian?
He got cheated out because I used his time up.
No, but I think that I mean everybody wanted to listen what you had to say, Christian. So I mean it was interesting and part of this dialogue that we open with people who are calling in now. +1 970-577-6369. I know that some people were trying to call while we were still on the phone with the other viewers. So if you want to try again, now the phone line is open and is free. We are, of course, going towards the end of the show, but I wanted to analyze with you, while we wait for the next phone call, an article from 2015, which I found very interesting. I was about to say founded. I mean, found. Okay, so black magic on Red Square. In Russia, there are more faith healers than professional doctors. It's a symptom of decades of... oh, wow. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Who am I talking with?
Calator, how you doing,
Hi,
Leo?
Welcome, welcome. And we have also, if you can wait a second, we have also a caller on the other line. We would just like to tell them welcome, because I don't know if we can. You basically arrived at the same time, so I could take only one call. So
yeah, pretty much.
Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Who am I talking with? Hello? Yeah, here we lost the...
You probably lost both of them now.
Yeah, you think so?
You should just take care of one thing at a time.
Okay, then sorry guys, because I am, but I will take back this other caller if I can. I don't know. I'm trying. Call him back. I'm gonna call them. This is let's see if they will answer. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Who am I talking with?
Oh, Leo, it's Carl from FEMA region number 556.
Okay, Carl. Now, we receive all these calls, but we need to really take them all because they kindly called us. So I will try to
now
answer. You
have to take both of them?
Yes.
How needs to answer?
Okay. So first of all, what do you think about the subject of today? And do you have anything in particular regarding the subject that you want to discuss?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to get straight to it. To answer your question directly, yes, we're in a spiritual battle. It's a battle between good and evil, right versus wrong, and we really fight this battle every day with our actions and the way that we resist our thoughts, which are not of ourselves. And then also, I want to comment on these magicians, these witches. When you look at these people, they have purple hair. they they call themselves trans this and whatever that. Basically they're libtards. They're woke libtards. And as we know, as our president said, everything woke turns to you know what. So I really don't expect their ritual, so-called ritual, to have any effect.
Okay, that's an interesting take. But some people would say that instead Michael used ritual worked because Trump was then defeated at the presidential elections. What will you answer to those people?
I don't think magic has anything to do with taking white vans and shipping it.
Right?
I think you really pinpointed that very well. Thank you so much, and call us also in the future. Rambo, you are
really bad.
Rambo, why you so out of control? Huh? Rambo, do you need to be exercised?
If I let him down, he's going to tip tap on the floor.
Yeah, okay. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. I'm going to open once again the phone line because we missed the caller. I'm sorry, I had to put the phone down on him. But
call him back.
If we can manage. Let me see if I can manage. Which call was that? Call ended. It was, I don't know. Call again. Whoever you were.
I think it's at 771.
I think so. No, this is the one we just called. No,
that one, the second one.
Huh?
That one.
This one?
I think so.
You think too much. We were like, no, because I can't just call people out of the blue.
I like when you do that. It's fun.
Okay, so if
you do it on your Italian show,
oh, yeah,
you should
well,
do it on this show. Like you just call people, like you can call.
Yeah, sure. The
Joe
White
Biden
House and and then they're gonna
people on the list.
Yes, and then
when
they're gonna give me the citizenship, never. So that's why I can't do it here. I can do it in Italy at the moment. Rambo, what do you think? Who should I call? Okay, we're waiting for the phone caller from before. Can you manage the call? Rambo, what do you think? Do you want to talk with your cousin in Mexico? You can call him if you want. Should we call him? He wants to talk with his cousin in Mexico. Okay.
I guess that means the end of the show.
Guys, volume 7. If you didn't purchase this book,
I think we should do another show.
Purchase it. Okay, so they're calling. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Were you the gentleman who called earlier, which I put down the phone on?
Yeah.
Hey! Great. We recovered you. Okay. So can you give? No worries.
Sorry.
Good discussion tonight. But you remember what the Bible says?
Yes.
We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places.
That's true.
I've had a lot of close encounters with this kind of stuff.
So you want to tell us one of your encounters? As I'm sure a lot of people will.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Well, mine tend to involve women. I've had 3 women try to put the fix on me. One with voodoo, one with Obion, and one with Santeria.
Oh man, what kind of women you go out with? What kind of women?
Yeah.
You like it a little. Sorry, man. You like it a little bit kinky.
I've had 3 different women try to put the fix on me. Like love spells.
Wow, you must be really.
Well, you must be kind of a stud. I mean, all these women after you putting love spells.
I wish that was the case. It's just something that happened, but it's real. I mean, But here's the funny thing. One of the women I actually was really in love with. Okay, she didn't have to do it. But when you go from being in love to thinking about that person 24 hours a day, all the time, you know that something's wrong. You know that something's not quite right. So, but the funny thing is, most of these women are from the Caribbean basin and from South America, so who use that kind of stuff.
Yes, it's part of their culture, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. That's how they lock a guy down, and I had to I have parents who pray for me every day, so that kind of helps out, and I have a connection with the Almighty. But it's real.
Did you have to get?
Sorry,
do you have to get a blessing from a priest or an exorcism or something?
No. Like it says in the Bible, the prayer of a righteous man availeth much. You just have to have a true believer get down on his knees and pray for you. And if you need anointing, you can get that done. But you just have to have and believe. And once you invite the Holy Spirit to come in, there's nothing that can withstand that power. Okay.
Mm.
And if you use, if you use, listen, we're given power to exorcise demons in ourselves in the name of Yeshua.
Yes.
Okay, so let's be serious. I mean, you could do it. Anybody could do it.
Sure.
Demons tremble at that name. Okay, and you can command any demon with using Yeshua's name. So that's not it's not a novel thing. Christ tells us himself, how to do it. Because we're not supposed to walk in a spirit of fear. But yeah, that stuff is very real. When I lived in New York, for about 18 years, and all kinds of stuff, and I lived on the edge. There's no question about that. I had a great time, but you encounter all sorts of things. And maybe some other time I'll tell you about how the local chapter of the OTO tried to get me to join. But that's a totally different story.
Okay. So I guess, there is a gentleman we should definitely discuss from New York. But it will be for
so when you had
topic for another show.
When you had the hex on you from the woman, so did you always want to be with her, and did you feel like some strange?
No, what it was like, this oppressive presence. I'm overly in love. The feeling of it was there. Okay, the absolute feeling. I felt like it was Yeah, I did feel like I wanted to be with her. Well, I'll put it to you this way. That's all I thought about, which was how I knew it was unnatural, okay?
Yeah.
So that was that was like the red flag right there. It's like, wait a minute. You can love somebody, but you think about them all the time, there's something wrong, okay?
Yeah.
Well, good thing you realized and didn't marry her.
But it happened more than once, he said. It happened with 3 different women.
It happened more than one. It happened once with a woman from Dominican Republic, one from Guyana. The one from Guyana was the worst. She used opium.
Okay. Now let me ask you, which the one from Guyana, the worst, which tradition was she using? So now we know
opium.
which. Okay, so that is really the most powerful, you think? More than Santeria, more than
you've been to New York,
Ifa,
right?
whatever.
You've been to New York, Leo, right?
Yes, sure. Well, Christy is from New York, so I mean.
Okay, all right. Do you remember the restaurant on 54th Street called Biche? B-I-C-E?
No. Christy knows it. I was in New York only once.
It's a nice northern Italian restaurant. Anyway, there's just there's a Davidoff cigar shop around the corner. And I started going to this restaurant because I asked the guy, where can I smoke the cigar? I didn't want to smoke it in the smoke shop. So this is a nice little restaurant around the corner. Well, this place became my hangout. Great, risotto di funghi, very good deal shop.
Nice.
Northern Italian cuisine, the best. One of my favorite Northern Italian. That's why I went there. And
let's explain for our viewers. The Northern Italian cuisine starts from the River Po. After the River Po, they use butter. Below the River Po, they use only olive oil. So it's a different kind of cuisine because it uses a lot more butter. Now, I teach Christy both cuisines, and I must say she does very well with both butter and olive oil. Isn't that the case, Christy?
Oh, yes.
But actually, you did well.
You like better. But anyway, she was a hostess at this restaurant, and this place was an interesting place because a lot of interesting people used to go there. And she wanted to get her hooks into me. And I wasn't really moving fast enough or didn't show appropriate. And she was pretty. She was a pretty girl. Don't get me wrong. And one day I saw her with a cigar and she gave me that look. And I didn't connect the fact that she was going to use that cigar. She didn't smoke cigars. She's going to use that cigar in a ritual. And then after that,
but I mean, it wasn't the ritual of Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office.
No, it wasn't that one.
Okay. So because
but it was serious, and it took a while to shake it, though. But
Yes.
you know, it's like once you do that, it's like a form of spiritual rape. You know, it's like, wait a minute, I'm already in love with you. I already like you. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of silly.
Yeah, but going back to what we said earlier, because these people, these women came from specific parts of the world where they are kind of drawn to that kind of tradition from when they are very young. They believe that is part of the whole thing. They have to do it in a way, no? Almost.
Well,
probably.
If you feel you have to,
It's like
that, then you've got issues. You know.
Yeah, I mean, once I remember in the 90s, somebody opened, this Russian lady opened the cupboard, and there was a entity parked there from a Cuban guy. It was one of the Santerias, you know, and he was feeding with the smoke of cigar and whiskey. And I was there with our friend Camille, Italian Camille,
right.
And I was like, what the heck is this in the cupboard? I was like,
did you know what it was right then and there?
Absolutely, yes. That's why they showed it to me.
Yeah,
so I was like, well, keep it, you know, like kind of like, okay, you know. But
wow.
People are, you know, and I said immediately to this person, which actually was a Russian Orthodox believer, I said, this doesn't have anything to do with your tradition. Don't get involved with it. But, you know, I mean, everybody's free to do whatever mistakes they want in their life, as long as they don't involve us, you know. I mean, but definitely you see people tend to even embrace traditions that are not even theirs. Imagine those women who you said came from those areas, were brought up. You know,
well, I mean, you know, it made me realize, number one, these things are very real. Somebody could put a love spell or a sex spell on you, and before you realize what's happening, you've barely woken up. So,
well, thank you so much for.
You could end up the father of 5 kids.
Well, that's true. Maybe, but in any case, be a little bit more controlling of when you go in these places where you are consuming alcohol or you are consuming cigars, because you have to understand that alcohol and cigars, but especially alcohol, can be an immediate opening of a portal.
Cigars too?
No, cigars.
You're absolutely right, and I have been very careful about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
mean, you're absolutely right.
So a little bit more, you know, you have to kind of not let down the guard, because then things like that will happen.
You obviously had your guard up because you realized it. So.
Well, in fact, he's here with us
3
today.
times. I mean, come on. I mean, you know,
3 times
really
it's kind of like it's kind of recurring thing, you know. It's kind of like go around with a big chain, with a big cross, and
ladies, stay back.
Ladies, stay back.
You guys are great.
All the best. Thank you for calling in, and please call in the future so we can discuss more of your adventures, including the one with the OTO. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our show. Christy, did you enjoy the show today? Oh, it was interesting.
Scary. I'm not scared of no ghosts.
Imagine Camilla, the one from Rome, that brings open the thing, and there is an entity, a statue, and they were blowing a smoke and whiskey on it and stuff. And I said,
oh, not a real, like,
no, but it was that's an entity. An entity resides in those little statues from Cuba on the Santeria tradition. Whatever.
Demons are really ugly too.
Yeah. Okay, guys, please share this video, put like. If you want to help us purchase one of our books, there's even the hard copy, hard, very hard, nice, very good. It's the first time we have a Yeah, it's that. Hardcover, and and then we have Christie's books, and we have also my other books. So please support us by purchasing my books or with a donation through Fundly, GoFundMe, or Cash App. All the best.
Bye, everyone.
Where is Rambo?
He's away.
He's sleeping.
No, he's not.
He's pretending to sleep.
Bye, Diane. Bye, Todd. Bye, Kev.
Bye
Bye,
bye. We will be back on Thursday. And while the time on Tuesday kind of like, it depends on how my work days arrange. On Thursday, we are usually here at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So 5 Pacific Standard Time, 6 Mountain Time, 7 Central Time, 8 East. We are gonna be all yours for another episode of the Leo Zagami Show. Don't miss it. Leo and Christy Zagami. Hold it.